All right, chapter 2-6 is graphing in 4 quadrants. And so the first thing I want you guys to do in your notes is I want you to sketch this coordinate plane in your notes. And we're going to talk about what quadrants are, and then we're going to do some review on graphing ordered pairs, which I think you'll find this whole section to be very easy because it'll be a lot of review. Okay. Sketch you a coordinate plane. You don't have to get too specific with the numbers. Just get you an X and a Y. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about, we're going to go really big here. All right, I want to talk about what coordinates are what. So if you'll notice here, we're going to call this coordinate 1. And in coordinate 1, or in quadrant 1, sorry. And in quadrant 1, your X's and your Y's, and remember this is your X's and this is your Y's, okay? Your X's and your Y's are both going to be positive because you would move to the right on your X axis and then up in your Y axis, and that would put you somewhere in this quadrant, okay? Now it goes counterclockwise. So this one is quadrant 2. Make sure you label your quadrants. You will see that on a upcoming quiz or a test. In quadrant 2, notice your X's are this way. So your X's are negative, but your Y's still go up. So your X's are negative and your Y's are positive, and we'll practice graphing here in just a second. And then next, because I said it goes counterclockwise, next we have quadrant 3. And in quadrant 3, your X's are negative because you go backwards and your Y's go down. So your X's and your Y's both are negative in quadrant 3. Now these are Roman numerals. So your last quadrant is quadrant 4. Okay, if you're not great on Roman numerals, write yourself a regular 4 there to remind you, but that's the way you'll see it on a quiz. Okay, V stands for 5 in Roman numerals, and the one less than 5 is 4. And in quadrant 4, you've got positive X's again, because your X's are going this way, but your Y's are going down, and that'll put you somewhere in this bottom corner quadrant. Okay. All right, am I good to go on from that? I just want to make sure everybody has their quadrants labeled, starting in the upper right and going counterclockwise 1 through 4. All right, I'm going to erase all this then. So we're going to graph. And like I said, I think this part here will be a nice little review for you. So I think you'll find it very easy to do. We are going to graph each one of these points on the coordinate plane. Okay, so we're not going to graph them all, but we'll pick and choose a few of them. So we're going to do A here. Get my pen back down to normal size. I had it big so that I could point out those quadrants. All right, so we're going to graph A here. A is the point 8, 6. Now, just as a little bit of a reminder, I've already said it once, but this is your X and this is your Y. X's tell you to go left or right, okay, depending on whether they're positive or negative. Y tells you to go up or down, and the way I remember that is Y's rise. So your Y's are the ones that tell you how far up or down to go. Now, if you have a positive 8 and a positive 6, that means you're going to move positive to the right 8, because that's this X value right here. And then the Y value tells you to rise positive 6. So we rise positive 6, and we put a point at the intersection. Now, you obviously are not going to have, right, those 2 arrows. Those are just the lines kind of showing you, because you can't see, or you can't tell where my eyes are going when I look at a coordinate plane. But that's the thought process that goes behind graphing a point. It's to the right 8, that's your X, and then up 6, that's your Y. Okay, now we always want to name it because it has a name. It says it's point A, so we're going to put a point A there. Okay. Now, if we look at this one, we're going to graph point B. Well, point B, the X value is -8 and the Y value is a positive 6. So we're going to go -8, which is backwards 8. And then when we hit the 8, now notice the 8 isn't really written on the graph, right? it's -2 and then -6 and then -10. So you've got to, in your own mind, be able to decipher these graphs and fill in the blanks. And since it's not there, right, it's there, but that's -8, that would be -4, this would be -12. You have to fill in the gaps sometimes, okay? But anyway, we go backwards, -8, and then we go +6, which is up 6. So that puts us right there, okay? And if we do it right, let me erase my arrows here that just kind of told you what I was thinking. If we do it right, and you won't do this on your actual homework, but you might sketch it really lightly the first couple times if you're not quite sure how to graph coordinates. What should happen with -8, 6 is you should be able to go straight up from -8 and straight over from 6, and your point should create a square or a rectangle, okay, if you've done it right. Just like with our A, right? It was 8, 6. We should have been able to go up from 8 and over from 6, and we should create a square with our point. All right. How about, let's do negative. Let's do C here. Okay, -4, -11. Okay, again, we're going to go backwards -4. It's not written there, so we have to figure out that it's between -2 and -6. And then we need to go down what? -11. So over 4, down -11. And again, it's not there, but it's between 10 and 12. So you just got to know it's there. Okay. And we're going to label it. Oh, I didn't label my other one either. This one was B. Make sure and label them. If it has a label, make sure you label your points so you know what's what. And then this one was C. Okay. And then another example would be one that would be like 9 here. So let's do this one right here. Okay, 6, -2. So 6 is your X move. That's your left and right move. That is a positive move. So that tells us we're going to go to the right 6 and then down -2. So to the right 6 and then down -2 puts us right there. Okay. To the right 6, down -2, and that is point I. Okay, so we've labeled our points. Gabe, would you reach up and hit that top switch for me? It makes it a little bit easier, especially the different colors. Does that make it easier? If I ever forget, just holler at me. All right, so a couple of special cases. One is like this one right here. Okay, we're going to graph this one. Now, the 9 is our X value. That tells us it's positive. So that tells us we're going to go to the right 9 spots. But then the 0 tells us up or down. Well, we're not going to move up or down because remember, 0 isn't a positive or a negative. It's not a move at all. So that means we're going to go over to 9 and just put a point right on the axis because we don't move up or down. Okay, that was E. So when Y is 0, your X is going to have you moving left and right, but then your Y, when it comes time to move up or down, you can't, you don't, okay? Likewise, if you have one like this, okay, it's kind of the opposite. Your first move is left and right, which is right here, the 0. Well, you're not going to move left or right. So then you got to go -8, which means right on the axis, you're going to fall to -8, and you're going to put a point right on the axis. Okay, so you're going to fall straight down to -8, but you're not going to move left or right first. Okay. Now, the other thing you might be given is you might be given a point already on the graph, like say here. And you're going to be asked to label that point. Always label it with the X value first. So how far over do you have to go to be above it? And the answer here is -10. Okay, you go backwards -10, and then you fall to -10. So the point or the coordinate here, the X and the Y value is -10, -10. And we'll do one more. Let's do one right here. If it says label this point, well, to get over to that point, okay, and it's right here, just in case you didn't see where I just drew it. To get over to that point, the left and right move was a positive 14. And then down. Yes. Kate, will you come here for a sec? I'll let you have it first. All right, so we go over positive 12 to get to where we're above it, right? And then we have to go down, which is a negative move to 12, so negative 12. So the coordinate for this point here that I put on the graph was 14, negative 12. Over 14 positive, dropped 12 negative, okay? Easy peasy there. Like I said, I think that's kind of a review. So this is where the new stuff will kind of come in. Now, when I say new stuff, we've done all of this year. Okay, we've talked about all of this year. This is going to really kind of bring in a lot of what we've already done this year to work this problem. It says, make a table of values and graph 6 set of ordered pairs for the equation y equals 5 minus x. So our equation that they gave us is y equals 5 minus x. We are going to use that over and over and over again here. So it doesn't tell us what ordered pairs to start with. So we have to use our best judgment and we have to pick some x's. Remember when I said equations are like Hershey Kiss factories? You dump in the ingredients, which are our x's. You run them through the equation and out pops a y or out pops a Hershey Kiss. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick 6 x's. We're going to put them through the equation one at a time, and each one of them is going to pop out a coordinating y. All right. Now, we have to be smart about what x's we pick because we're going to have to graph these. And looking at our graph that we were given, right, what x's should I pick? Somewhere in a range. What do you guys think? Nobody? Here's my x-axis. What if I picked x of 10? Am I going to have a place to graph that? So where should I start? What should be my range? Yes. -4 to 4. Yeah. You're going to want to stay somewhere between -4 and 4 because if you pick a crazy big x value, it's not going to fit on your graph. So I know I need to pick 6 of them, and I know they need to be between -4 and 4. That's really the only instructions that you really have to kind of stay in line with. So I'm going to pick -4, -3, -1, 0, 1, and 3. I'll kind of skip around a little bit. Now I'm inside my perimeter of -4 to 4. So all my x's are going to fit on my graph. That's good. Now I have to figure out the y value with each one. Each one of these is an ingredient that I'm going to have to feed into my equation and get the y that comes out of it. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to start with this first x right here, this -4. I'm going to take my equation, y equals 5 minus, and now I'm going to put parentheses where there was an x. And I'm going to plug in -4. Now we've done this, right? A minus and minus does what? Yes. We do have to, no, yeah, we multiply the negative times the negative and we get a plus. So when x equals -4, y equals 9. So I come back over to my table and I put a 9 here. And then notice the next spot on the table, they want you to write that x and a y as an ordered pair. So I'm just simply going to write -4, 9, because that's the ordered pair that is created when I feed a -4 through that equation. Now I'm going to graph -4, 9. Now, -4 fits fine. I can go over to -4, but to go up to 9, I got to kind of get off my graph a little bit because here is 7, 8. So 9 would be up here. So I'm going to put my point right there. Okay. So I just graphed the point -4, 9. I went backwards to -4 right here. And then I went up to 9 up on my graph. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to -3, and I'm going to do the same thing. Y equals 5 minus, and I'm going to put parentheses. And now inside those parentheses for the x, this time I'm going to plug in a -3. Okay, plus and a plus, or plus and a plus. There you go, there's your answer. A minus and a minus is going to go plus. So y equals 8. I go back over to my table and I fill in a little bit more of my table. When x is -3, y is 8. So I'm going to write that as an ordered pair. -3, 8. And now I'm going to graph -3, 8, which means I'm going to go backwards on the x axis and then up to 8, which is right here. I know these particular problems are time consuming. That's why on your homework, you only have one, okay? Because it is a lot of work that goes into one problem, okay? And I get that. So now I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna do the exact same thing and I'm gonna plug in. So 5 minus parentheses. And now I'm gonna plug a -1 in here. And you can see why parentheses become really important around that X. It's gonna keep your signs from getting all muddled up. Negative and a negative goes plus, so y equals 6. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna put a 6 in my y category. And then I'm gonna write it as an ordered pair, -1, 6. And then I'm gonna graph it. I'm gonna go backwards -1 and up 6. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same thing with 0. This one should be easy. Y equals 5 minus 0. What's 5 minus 0? It's just 5, all right? Put a 5 in my table. Now I'm going to write the point 0, 5, and I'm going to graph 0, 5. Now remember the X value is 0. That's my left and right movement. I don't move left and right at all. You always start at your origin. This is your origin point. I'm going to erase that here in a second, but you always start at that middle origin point. Now my X tells me to move left or right. I don't move left or right, but I go up 5. So there's my point right there at 0, 5. Now I have to do it again. Okay, this time I'm going to be putting a 1 in there. So y equals 5 minus 1. Well, 5 minus 1 is just 4. So I'm going to plug that in or put that in my table, write my ordered pair, and then graph 1, 4. Well, this time it's a positive 1. So I'm going to go to the right 1 and up 4. Right, I go this way 1, and then I go this way 4. Okay. And then last, thankfully, we only have to do it 6 times. Last is, do it one more time. And this time I'm doing it with a 3, because that's the last one on my table. So y equals 5 minus 3, which is 2. So I plug a 2 in here. And then I write my ordered pair, 3, 2, and I graph over 3 up 2. On your homework, I need to see all of this work, okay? I need to see each time you did the equation. Don't erase it and try to make space for a new one. If you ever have to use extra paper, it's always fine with me. You need to show each way that you found the y value that goes with each X. Then you need to fill out your whole table with the X, the Y, and then writing it as an ordered pair, and then graph it. Now, the last thing it says, and this will take us back a couple of weeks, describe the graph. Based on what we've learned so far this year, how could I describe this graph? Kind of goes back to our correlation lesson.
Positive correlation?
Read it left to right. When you're reading it left to right, do your points fall or do they rise? Yeah, they fall, so it'd be negative. So in describing the graph, it's negative correlation. And if you wanted to get really, really specific on how you describe it, it crosses the graph on the y-intercept there at +5, right? Because this is your y-axis right here. The straight up and down axis is your y-axis. And it crosses your y-axis at 5. You don't have to get that particular, but there's a lot of different ways we could describe this. We haven't really talked about this yet, and I think we will in coming lessons. So this isn't something you need to write on today's homework, but this would be considered linear. Because remember when we talked about correlations, we said that they just kind of had to hover around a line, but head in the right direction. These don't just hover around a line. They literally are the line. They create a straight line. So this would be an example of negative linear correlation. Okay. All right. On your homework, you're going to do all of your homework, and here's why. The top is just this right here. And I think you can graph points very quickly and identify points very quickly. So you're going to graph the points on one part of it. You're going to identify the points on the other part. Remember, when you're writing ordered pairs, just like I did right here. Hey guys, don't start putting stuff away just yet. When you're writing ordered pairs, make sure you use the parentheses and the comma separating the X and the Y, and always write your X first. And then on the bottom, make sure you show all the work for all of the different ways or all of the different points that you feed in the X and you get the Y. All right. For those of you at home, go ahead and hit load at the bottom of your assignment. Show all of this work, just like we did in class. Show all of this work in Cami. and then submit it when you're done and email me if you have any questions.